everyone. Welcome to Beryl Elites. I'm Lisa from Beryl Consulting Group. It's a pleasure to have with us today Mr. Tim Baker, the CEO and the co-founder of the viaNexus. Hi, Tim.
Lisa.
Thank you for joining us today. If you don't mind, we have some hot and burning questions for you regarding the AI in next generation AI co-pilots. So let's lay the foundation work. How is viaNexus changing the way that financial data is distributed and consumed in today's AI driven markets?
That's a great question. And AI is such a new space.
Exactly.
We, we're fundamentally challenging how data is distributed, not just in the AI space, but generally. So market data and financial data tends to flow through very large aggregators, companies like Bloomberg, like LSEG, like S&P, and you've heard of all those companies. And those companies do a fantastic job, but they're very large, slow moving, and they tend to have just the data that's on their shelf. And they've become very dominant in the market. So the mission of viaNexus is to challenge some of that dominance. We have a brand new tech platform, and we're looking to create a marketplace that enables new sources of data, traditional sources of data that aren't part of those big platforms to be available in a quite different commercial model to consumers of that data. We acquired a platform from a US exchange called IEX about a year ago, and we've transformed that platform to be this incredible and dynamic digital marketplace. It runs in the cloud in GCP. And what we realized some time ago was that because the data is so well normalized, and this is data from many partners and from exchanges and from markets, we normalize that data in such a way that it's perfect to serve up into agentic workflows. And so what we've done is we've created a whole suite of capabilities. We call them the viaNexus Agentic Services Technology, or VAST for short. And what VAST does is it makes it very easy for people building agent-based systems to access market data. And that's really, very difficult for large firms to do because they have a very traditional licensing model, and they don't necessarily have the technology or the controls to be able to enable data consumption at an agentic level.
Fascinating. And I'm sure viaNexus does play a role in terms of enabling AI co-pilots and digital assistants. But specifically, a question based on your expertise and your observation: what role does viaNexus play?
So all of the agentic platforms out there, Claude for finance, the Microsoft Copilot, Gemini, they all have slightly different methods for accessing data, but they generally use a capability called MCP. MCP is the Model Context Protocol. That enables a large language model or a generative AI system to access structured data like market data. So an example of market data might be the prices of a stock on a market, or it could even be financial statement data. So this is the kind of data that you don't want an LLM pulling from itself, from the LLM, or even reaching out into the market, because that data could have errors in it. So you want something much more prescriptive and reliable as a source. So through the vast capability that we've built, we're allowing any large language model to connect to our data. And what that means is the LLM is constrained to the reliable sources that we have on our platform. That allows you, for example, to create a finance chatbot. The chatbot could be a simple chatbot that wants to look at how the market's doing today. We have sources like news, for example, so you can ask that chatbot to use our data sources to create a market commentary. How is the Mag 7 doing? Which stocks are moving the most? And explain why they're moving. And so that LLM-based system will know to hit our various sources of content to answer those questions without leaking that question onto the internet or without pulling unreliable data from the internet. So our SDK can seamlessly attach to any of the major LLMs. It can attach to any of the vibe coding platforms like Replit. So if you want to build an application that uses market data, it's very easy to use our SDK or our vast platform to be able to do that.
Right. I see. Fantastic. But before we embrace the future, we are currently living in the world where traditional financial institutions still exist, and still or act in the way that the LLM hasn't arrived yet. So how is viaNexus currently helping those traditional financial institutions in moderating their data strategies or like modernize their data strategy or financial strategies?
That's a good question, Lisa. So we see it as a marketplace. We see two sides to that.
Right.
So the first side is on the producer side. So there are many companies that aren't very sophisticated in the way they deliver their data, or they want to modernize their delivery capabilities. They might have a lot of data that they're not monetizing,
Right.
and they don't really want to monetize that through a large incumbent like a Bloomberg or an LSEG. Think of companies. So we've just done a major strategic partnership with SIX. SIX is the Swiss stock exchange. They have a huge amount of very fast moving financial data, both in the Swiss exchange, but also in their UK exchange, Aquis, and in the Spanish stock exchange. So Swiss has hired us to take our whole platform and to white label that so they can modernize how the data is delivered. What that will mean is that fintechs and people building products, maybe buy-side firms, can much more efficiently choose the data that they want from SIX. They can build their front ends, they can build their analytics, and they can do that without the rigmarole of talking to salespeople to negotiate prices. Our platform takes care of all of that. And then on the consume side, we're seeing this kind of tidal wave of modernization going on across wealth management and asset management and banking. And many of those solutions that are being built need market data. And if they take that market data from traditional sources, they're probably going to have a much bigger bill. They're going to have to build all kinds of compliance processes to keep track of which agents are using which data. And it's going to be a bit of a nightmare. Our agentic services takes care of all of that. It means that the data is properly entitled, so it gives the consumer of the data a lot of controls in the way that they consume the data and build those applications.
I see. And I believe viaNexus is actively engaging in this whole process in terms of providing and maintaining. Is that right?
That's right. So we're building an ecosystem, and since we announced the SIX deal, we've had a number of companies come to us and say, "Hey, can you help us distribute our data?" We have companies come to us that say, "Look, we're building a new market-based application, and we need real-time prices." Real-time prices are very expensive, and actually, the licensing regime isn't built for agents; it's built for applications, and it's built for humans. And that's how the data is licensed. So if you're building an application that needs to be able to know what the current market price is, then we can deliver that very quickly. So the client can get on and build their application and build their agentic workflow.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Lisa.
All right. Tim Baker, everyone. Thank you.